Commander, you are to assess the species on the third planet of Sol. Humans. Primitive, self-destructive, and insular. The report suggests they are a species that barely deserves the Empire's notice. Tarvin clasped his hands behind his back, his voice carrying the measured disdain he reserved for the unworthy. Archon, forgive my presumption, but if the species is so beneath us, why bother? Why waste the Empire's time? The Archon's gaze sharpened, like a blade poised to strike. Because, Commander, the Council has learned they possess weapons of uncharacteristic sophistication for their kind. The Empire must know if they are a nuisance to be crushed or an anomaly to be studied. You will ensure they do not pose a threat. Tarvin inclined his head. As you command, the starship Doom descended through Earth's atmosphere, a gleaming behemoth of black and silver slicing through clouds like a predator stalking prey. The vessel's arrival disrupted the skies over the capital, its sheer presence casting a shadow over the capital's white dome. Commander Tarvin gazed at the alien city from the viewing deck, his lips curling into a smirk. Crude structures. Their architecture betrays their lack of sophistication, he muttered. Beside him stood Captain Sarek, a junior officer eager to please. Commander, do you believe they'll grovel as others have? Tarvin's smirk deepened. They always do, Captain. They make a show of defiance, but in the end they kneel. The landing bay opened with a mechanical hiss, and Tarvin stepped onto Earth's soil, flanked by a dozen armored Imperial guards. A small human delegation awaited him, their expressions a mixture of unease and forced composure. At their center stood General Sean Williams, his broad shoulders and unflinching gaze a stark contrast to the nervous civilians around him. Williams stepped forward, his voice steady. Commander Tarvin, on behalf of the United States, welcome to Earth. Tarvin inclined his head, his voice dripping with polite condescension. General Williams, the Galactic Empire extends its greetings. We are here to assess your world's potential. His eyes swept over the humans, as if they were specimens to be cataloged. Williams didn't flinch. Potential or threat? The question hung in the air, a challenge wrapped in diplomatic restraint. Tarvin chuckled. We shall see, General. Perhaps both. Tell me, is it true your species has never ventured beyond your moon? The jab landed, eliciting a ripple of discomfort among the civilians. Williams, however, stood firm. Our reach may be limited, Commander, but our ingenuity isn't. You'll find that underestimating us would be a mistake. Tarvin's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but he recovered quickly. Bold words. I look forward to your demonstration. The following morning, the Imperial delegation gathered at a secured military base in Nevada. Tarvin observed the preparations with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Rows of tanks, fighter jets, and soldiers in combat gear lined the desert field, their movements precise and disciplined. Yet, to Tarvin, it all seemed primitive. Machines of steel and flesh clinging desperately to outdated concepts of war. A young Imperial scientist, Dr. Kairos, approached him. Commander, their technology appears rudimentary. They rely heavily on combustion engines and chemically propelled projectiles. Tarvin waved a dismissive hand. As expected, this will be over quickly. General Williams arrived, his expression neutral as he gestured toward a row of vehicles. Commander Tarvin, I trust you're ready for the demonstration. Tarvin raised an eyebrow. Proceed, General. Impress me. Williams signaled to his team, and the demonstration began. At first, it appeared as Tarvin had anticipated. Jets roaring overhead, unleashing missiles on distant targets. Tanks firing shells with thunderous force. The spectacle was loud but, in Tarvin's eyes, unimpressive. Then came the drones. Sleek, silent, and lethal, they swarmed the test field with an almost predatory intelligence. They moved as if guided by a hive mind, dodging countermeasures with precision and striking targets with surgical accuracy. Tarvin leaned forward, his brow furrowing. Interesting, he murmured. The final act came when a prototype orbital cannon fired a beam of concentrated energy, obliterating a target on the far side of the desert in a blinding flash. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and for the first time, Tarvin's confidence wavered. He turned to Dr. Kairos. "This is not what I expected." Williams stepped beside him, his tone cool. "Commander, this is merely a sample of what we're capable of. You've seen enough for now. The rest, I believe, is better left to your imagination." Tarvin's gaze shifted to Williams, studying the man with newfound respect. "You surprise me, General. I may have underestimated your kind." Williams's lips curled into a faint smile. "That's a mistake you won't make twice." As the Imperial delegation departed the base, Tarvin's mind churned. He had arrived on Earth expecting to confirm humanity's inferiority, but the day's events had unsettled him. These humans were more than primitives. They were cunning, resourceful, and dangerous. Back aboard the Doom, Captain Sarek broke the silence. "Commander, your assessment?" Tarvin stared out at the planet below, his expression unreadable. "They are not the cowards the Council believes them to be. They are something far more troublesome." He turned sharply, his tone commanding. "Prepare a full report. The Supreme Council must be informed. Humanity is no longer a curiosity. They are a variable we cannot ignore." In the distance, Earth's blue horizon curved against the darkness of space, a small world with an unsettling potential. As the Doom ascended, Tarvin couldn't shake the feeling that humanity would not be as easy to subjugate as he had once believed. The Nevada desert stretched endlessly under a blazing sun, its vast emptiness a canvas of dust and heat. Commander Tarvin stood at the observation platform, his sharp eyes scanning the preparations below. Rows of American soldiers moved with calculated efficiency, their movements coordinated like the inner workings of a machine. Tarvin's imperial pride wavered slightly. The humans lacked the ceremonial precision of the Empire's legions, but compensated with something more primal, an air of quiet determination. General Sean Williams ascended the platform, his boots crunching against the metal. Beside him walked Colonel Jackson Reeves, a man built like an oak with a no-nonsense demeanor to match. Williams's expression was neutral, but there was an edge of satisfaction in his voice. "Commander Tarvin," Williams began, "we've prepared a series of demonstrations tailored to your request. You wanted to assess our capabilities. Let's begin." Tarvin folded his arms, his polished demeanor intact. "Proceed, General. Let us see what passes for strength on this planet." The first act of the demonstration unfolded with predictable simplicity. American fighter jets streaked across the sky, their engines roaring as they unleashed a barrage of missiles on distant targets. Explosions erupted in the distance, scattering debris and dust into the air. Tanks rumbled forward, their cannons booming as they annihilated rows of mock enemy vehicles. Tarvin remained unimpressed, his lips curving into a faint smirk. "Crude," he remarked, his tone condescending. "Effective, perhaps, against lesser foes, but hardly a challenge for the Empire's fleet." Williams didn't rise to the bait. "We're just getting started, Commander." With a signal from Williams, the second phase began. Sleek drones, their metallic frames shimmering under the sun, ascended into the sky. They moved in unison, a swarm of artificial predators. Tarvin's amusement faded as he observed their maneuvers, silent, agile, and devastatingly precise. The drones executed coordinated attacks on moving targets, striking with unerring accuracy. They evaded countermeasures, darting through simulated anti-air defenses with an almost organic fluidity. One by one, targets disintegrated under their relentless assault. Dr. Kairos, the Imperial scientist standing behind Tarvin, adjusted his datapad with growing interest. "Commander, these drones exhibit a level of tactical programming far beyond what we anticipated. Their autonomy is unsettling." Tarvin's jaw tightened, though he refused to show unease. "Impressive, but such machines are only as good as their creators. Machines do not win wars. Men do." Williams, overhearing, finally allowed himself a small smile. Then you'll appreciate what comes next. The third act was a live combat simulation, pitting a squad of American Special Forces against automated enemy units. Tarvin leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. The soldiers moved like ghosts, their faces hidden behind advanced helmets that relayed data in real time. Using the terrain to their advantage, they executed a flawless ambush, dismantling the enemy with ruthless efficiency. One soldier, Sergeant Colanders, led the charge. His every movement was calculated, his commands sharp and decisive. Under his guidance, the squad outmaneuvered and overwhelmed a force twice their size. Tarvin's keen eyes noted the synergy between them, a trust forged in fire. These men are predators, Tarvin murmured to himself, his earlier smugness replaced by something darker. Williams's voice broke through his thoughts. We've learned that wars aren't won with brute force alone, Commander. Adaptability, precision, and an understanding of our enemy. That's how we fight. Before Tarvin could respond, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. A low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Tarvin turned toward the horizon, where a massive cannon had risen from an underground silo. The orbital cannon was the centerpiece of the demonstration, a towering weapon of terrifying potential. Its barrel glowed with a faint blue light, gathering energy for a single, devastating shot. Tarvin and his entourage watched in silence as the cannon locked onto its target, a reinforced bunker on the far side of the desert. When the cannon fired, the effect was instantaneous. A column of energy shot across the sky, obliterating the bunker in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave rippled through the air, shaking the observation platform. When the dust settled, the target was gone, reduced to a smoldering crater. For the first time, Tarvin was at a loss for words. He turned to Dr. Kairos, whose face had gone pale. The energy output, Kairos stammered, it rivals some of our fleet's primary weapons. Tarvin's grip on the railing tightened. His mind raced with calculations, weighing the implications of what he had just witnessed. William stepped closer, his tone calm but firm. That's just a taste of what we've developed, Commander. And while you've seen our weapons, you haven't seen the minds behind them. American ingenuity isn't something you can quantify on a datapad. Tarvin faced him, his composed facade cracking ever so slightly. You are not the primitives the Council described. Your kind may prove more troublesome than anticipated. Williams's eyes narrowed. If trouble is what you came looking for, Commander, you'll find it in abundance. As the demonstration concluded, Tarvin returned to the Doom, his thoughts a maelstrom of uncertainty. The humans had revealed a fraction of their capabilities, yet it was enough to unsettle him. Their technology, their tactics, their resolve. It all pointed to a species far more dangerous than he had imagined. Captain Sarek awaited him on the command deck, his expression expectant. Commander, your evaluation? Tarvin stared out at the desert below, the horizon shimmering under the midday sun. They are not the cowards we believe them to be. Their weapons are more advanced than we anticipated. Their soldiers more resourceful. This planet hides more than it reveals. Sarek hesitated. Do you believe they pose a threat to the Empire? Tarvin's gaze hardened. Not yet. But if they continue to develop unchecked, they could become the most dangerous foe we've ever faced. He turned sharply, his voice resolute. Prepare the report for the Supreme Council. They must understand what we are dealing with. As the doom ascended into the atmosphere, Tarvin couldn't shake a lingering sense of unease. The humans had shown their strength, but he suspected they had held back the full measure of their power. And for the first time in his career, he felt the stirrings of doubt. Whatever the Council's response, Tarvin knew one thing for certain. Earth was no mere backwater. It was a forge, and its people were weapons honed by adversity. The Doom hung in Earth's orbit like a predatory bird, its sleek, shadowed hull casting a faint outline against the planet's vibrant blue. Commander Tarvin stood in the ship's war room, surrounded by holographic displays and grim-faced officers. His report had been transmitted to the Galactic Empire's Supreme Council, and their response had arrived, clear and unyielding. "A small-scale invasion," Tarvin muttered, his voice devoid of emotion. His eyes lingered on the tactical display showing the chosen target. A rural American heartland, sparsely populated yet strategically significant as a logistical hub. They still refused to see the species for what it is. Captain Sarek, standing to his right, leaned in. "Perhaps they are correct, Commander. These humans may have impressive toys, but their civilization is fragmented. A single strike will break their spirit." Tarvin's lips pressed into a thin line. "No, Captain. You have seen what I have seen. They are not so easily broken. If we underestimate them again, it may cost us dearly." Despite his reservations, the Council's orders were absolute. Tarvin gave the signal. "Deploy the ground forces. Maintain orbital superiority. We will learn whether humanity is a threat or a lesson." The first wave of Imperial forces descended through Earth's atmosphere, their landing pods streaking across the night sky like falling stars. In the quiet farmlands of Kansas, the invasion began. Imperial troops emerged from their pods, gleaming in their composite armor, their weapons emitting a faint, menacing hum. Advanced walkers, towering machines with legs like arachnids, scanned the terrain with glowing sensors. Their orders were clear: secure the area, neutralize resistance, and establish a forward operating base. At first, it seemed the Empire's assessment was correct. The farmland appeared deserted, its fields eerily silent under the moonlight. But as the walkers moved deeper into the area, something changed. A distant rumble echoed across the plains, faint but growing louder. Sergeant Cole Anders, hidden with his squad behind the ridge of a dry creek bed, lowered his binoculars. "Here they come," he murmured. His voice carried a calm certainty that steadied the men around him. "Positions," he ordered. The squad responded without hesitation, a well-oiled machine honed by countless drills and skirmishes. As the walkers approached, their sensors began to register movement. Too late. A series of explosions tore through the night as buried mines erupted beneath their legs, sending plumes of fire and debris skyward. One walker collapsed, its leg severed, while another stumbled, firing wildly into the darkness. From their concealed positions, Anders' team unleashed a coordinated assault. Shoulder-mounted rocket launchers streaked through the air, targeting weak points in the walker's armor. Automated turrets, disguised as farm equipment, sprang to life, cutting down Imperial infantry with brutal efficiency. In the Imperial Command Center aboard the Doom, chaos erupted. "Commander Tarvin," an officer barked, "our forces are encountering unexpected resistance. Casualties are mounting." Tarvin's expression darkened as he studied the live feeds from the surface. The humans were not retreating or surrendering as predicted. They were fighting with an efficiency and ferocity that belied their supposed inferiority. "They've lured us into a trap," he muttered. His tone was low, but the weight of his words silenced the room. Dr. Kairos, observing nearby, voiced a thought lingering in Tarvin's mind. "Commander, this resistance, it's organized. They knew we were coming." Tarvin turned sharply. "And they've turned their terrain into a weapon." Below, the battle raged on. Anders' squad moved like shadows, striking hard and vanishing before the Imperial troops could react. Civilians, far from fleeing, had joined the effort. Farmers with improvised weapons, engineers turning irrigation systems into traps, and local hunters picking off soldiers from treetops, all fought with an almost reckless determination. Anders paused to catch his breath behind the cover of an overturned tractor. His calm crackled to life. "Anders, this is Williams. Reinforcements are en route. Hold the line." "Copy that, General," Anders replied. He wiped the sweat from his brow and motioned for his squad to regroup. "You heard the man. Let's show these invaders what happens when they pick a fight with the wrong species." Back aboard the Doom, Tarvin's patience had worn thin. "Prepare the aerial support," he ordered. If they want to fight like predators, we will burn the battlefield beneath them. A swarm of Imperial drones descended toward the surface, their engines humming ominously. But as they approached, ground-based EMP devices activated, sending waves of interference that scrambled their systems. The drones faltered, spiraling into the earth like dying fireflies. Tarvin clenched his fists. Impossible. How did they... They were ready for us, Captain Sarek interrupted, his voice tinged with disbelief. Tarvin exhaled slowly, his mind racing. For every tactic the Empire employed, the humans had an answer. Their resistance was not simply reactive. It was anticipatory, as if they had studied the Empire's methods and prepared accordingly. "Commander," Dr. Cairo said quietly, "this isn't a battle. It's a warning." The turning point came at dawn. A precision strike, orchestrated by General Williams himself, targeted the Empire's forward operating base. American bombers, escorted by fighter jets, launched a coordinated assault that bypassed the Empire's defenses. The base was reduced to rubble in minutes. Amid the ruins, a stunned Tarvin stood, captured alongside his surviving officers. He was brought face-to-face with Williams in a makeshift command tent. "You underestimated us," Williams said, his voice calm but firm. "And you paid the price." Tarvin's eyes burned with frustration, but beneath it lay something else: respect. "You're not like the others we've conquered," he admitted. "You don't just resist. You adapt. You fight like you have nothing to lose." "Because we don't," Williams replied. He leaned in, his gaze piercing. "You came here thinking we were weak, disorganized. But now you've seen what humanity is capable of. Tell your empire that if they come again, they'll face something far worse." Tarvin studied the man before him, understanding that this was no idle threat. Williams and his people were prepared to defend their home with everything they had. And more. As the first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon, Tarvin was escorted back to his ship. He left the surface of Earth not as a conqueror, but as a messenger. The Doom ascended into orbit, battered and humbled. Tarvin watched the planet recede on the view screen, his thoughts turbulent. "Captain Sarek," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Relay a message to the Supreme Council. Tell them humanity is more than a nuisance. They are a storm waiting to be unleashed." For the first time in his career, Commander Tarvin felt the weight of doubt. Humanity, he realized, was unlike any adversary the Empire had ever faced, and perhaps its greatest threat yet. The Supreme Council's chamber, a sprawling hall of crystalline arches and shifting starlight, was an emblem of the Galactic Empire's power. Holographic projections of alien worlds rotated serenely above the counselors, each representing a system brought to heel by their might. Yet the air was tense. The murmurs of the gathered counselors ceased as Commander Tarvin entered, his expression shadowed by the weight of his report. At the center of the chamber, High Chancellor Vedros, a figure of regal authority, sat on a raised platform. His golden eyes regarded Tarvin with a piercing scrutiny. "Commander, you have returned from the human system. What news do you bring of these primitives?" Tarvin stepped forward, his polished boots echoing against the obsidian floor. He inclined his head respectfully, but spoke without pretense. "Chancellor, we have gravely underestimated humanity. They are neither primitives nor disorganized. They are a force unlike any we have encountered." The chamber erupted into whispers, disbelief rippling through the council. Vedros raised a hand, silencing them. "Explain." Tarvin's voice was steady, each word deliberate. "They are fiercely intelligent and resourceful, with a capacity for innovation that rivals our own. Their unity in the face of invasion is unparalleled, and their weapons, though crude in some ways, are devastatingly effective. But it is not their technology that concerns me most." He paused, letting the weight of his statement settle. "It is their spirit. Humanity fights not just to survive, but to endure, to overcome. They do not fear death. They fear subjugation." The counselors exchanged uneasy glances. Counselor Rizel, a sharp-tongued elder known for his skepticism, sneered. Commander, are we to believe that this fledgling species, confined to a single planet, poses a legitimate threat to the Empire? Tarvin met Rizel's gaze without flinching. Counselor, they resisted our invasion with tactics and ingenuity that turned our own strength against us. They knew our strategies before we deployed them. Their generals think not just one step ahead, but 5. Rizel scoffed, but before he could reply, Dr. Kairos, who had accompanied Tarvin, stepped forward. The humans possess a unique quality, he said, his voice measured. They thrive under pressure. Their history is a chronicle of survival against overwhelming odds, natural disasters, wars, self-inflicted crises. Each time, they emerge stronger, more adaptive. This is not a species that collapses under imperial might. This is a species that grows sharper with every challenge. Vedros leaned forward, his golden eyes narrowing. And what of their response to our attack? Surely they cannot match the full force of the Empire. Tarvin hesitated, choosing his words carefully. They repelled our forces in Kansas with precision and ferocity. Their retaliation was not only tactical but symbolic. They allowed me to return with survivors, ensuring we could deliver their message. Message? Vedros inquired, his tone icier than before. Tarvin's jaw tightened. Yes, Chancellor. General Sean Williams, their military leader, instructed me to tell you this. If the Empire returns, humanity will meet us not as prey, but as predators. The room fell silent. Even Rizel's scornful expression faltered. Vedros' expression darkened, but there was a glimmer of intrigue in his eyes. And what do you suggest, Commander? That we abandon this system to these upstarts? Tarvin drew a deep breath. No, Chancellor, but we must change our approach. Conquering humanity through force alone will cost us dearly. They will resist us until their last breath, and every battle will make them stronger. Instead, I propose diplomacy, an alliance, or at least a truce. Let us recognize their strength and potential before they turn it fully against us. The murmurs rose again, louder this time. Counselor Rizel stood abruptly. This is madness. To suggest we treat these savages as equals. Enough. Vedros' command cut through the noise like a blade. He regarded Tarvin thoughtfully. You believe they are worthy of respect, Commander? Tarvin nodded. Yes, Chancellor. And if we fail to respect them, we risk creating an enemy more dangerous than any we have faced in our history. The debate raged on for hours. The council divided between those who saw humanity as a challenge worth engaging and those who dismissed them as an insolent annoyance. Meanwhile, aboard the Doom, Captain Sarek stood by the observation deck, gazing at Earth through the ship's reinforced glass. They're deciding our fate as much as theirs, he muttered to himself. Dr. Kairos, standing nearby, replied quietly, perhaps that is humanity's greatest strength. They force us to see our own weaknesses. In the end, Vedros made his decision. Rising from his throne, he addressed the chamber with a voice that carried the weight of millennia. Commander Tarvin's warning cannot be ignored. Humanity has proven itself formidable. Yet, they are untested on the galactic stage. We shall proceed with caution. Tarvin, you will return to Earth, not as a conqueror, but as an emissary. Offer them the hand of the Empire, not its fist. Let us see if they are as wise in peace as they are fierce in war. The decision was unprecedented. Tarvin bowed deeply, though the burden of his new mission was heavy. As the Doom began its descent toward Earth, Tarvin stood on the bridge, his expression contemplative. The vast blue-green planet loomed larger in the view screen, its swirling clouds and shining oceans a stark contrast to the cold steel of the Empire's war machine. Captain Sarek joined him. Do you believe they'll listen? Tarvin's lips curled into a faint, almost wry smile. Humanity is unpredictable, but one thing is certain. They've earned our respect. Now, it's up to us to earn theirs. The Doom landed in a secure zone, where General Williams and his delegation awaited. The humans stood resolute, their posture betraying neither fear nor submission. As Tarvin stepped forward, he extended a hand, a gesture he had learned from human culture. "General Williams," he said, his tone steady but sincere, "I come in peace." Williams regarded the gesture for a moment before clasping Tarvin's hand firmly. His gaze was as sharp as ever, but there was no hostility, only measured caution. "Then let's talk," Williams replied. In that moment, a tenuous bridge was formed, a fragile understanding between two vastly different powers. For the first time, the Galactic Empire and humanity stood not as enemies, but as equals on the precipice of something greater. Tarvin knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he also understood one undeniable truth. Respect had been earned on both sides, and with it, the possibility of a future neither could face alone.